The massive ship appeared at the edge of the Sol system like a metal mountain floating in space. Admiral A watched the readings on his command screen with 6 arms crossed behind his bulbous head. His species had discovered 846 other races across the galaxy, and they all followed the same pattern. First came fear, then bargaining, then acceptance of the Empire's rule. The humans would be no different. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the third planet," reported his communications officer, a tall being with crystalline skin that sparkled under the ship's lights. "Put it through," A ordered. His translator device hummed softly as it prepared to decode whatever primitive language these new creatures spoke. A woman appeared on the main screen. She had brown skin and dark hair pulled back in a simple style. Her clothes looked neat but nothing special. She seemed nervous, looking around at something off-screen before speaking. "This is Commander Sarah of the Earth Defense Force. Welcome to our solar system. We hope we can talk peacefully." A studied her with his large eyes. She spoke slowly, like someone trying very hard to say the right words. Her hands shook slightly. "Good. Fear made negotiations easier." "I am Admiral of the Galactic Empire," he replied in a voice that had commanded millions. "We come to offer your species membership in our great civilization. Prepare to receive our diplomatic team." His eyes widened. "Oh, yes, of course. We would be honored to host your people should we meet on Earth or—" "You will come to us," I interrupted. "Bring your leaders. We will conduct the integration assessment aboard this vessel." "Integration assessment?" asked, looking confused. "Standard procedure. We must determine your species' capabilities and assign your role within the Empire. Do not worry. All species find their place." Nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, we will prepare immediately." The screen went dark. A turn to his assessment team, creatures from a dozen different worlds who had performed this same ritual countless times. "Initial observations?" he asked. "Primitive, faster-than-light travel," reported the science officer, a being that looked like a walking tree with blue bark. "Their ships use basic fusion drives with crude space-folding technology, maybe 50 years behind standard Empire levels." "Weapons?" I asked. "Simple energy projectiles, chemical explosives, nothing that could threaten even our oldest patrol ships." A nodded. "Population?" "Approximately 8 billion on the home world, several small colonies on nearby planets and moons, standard breeding patterns for carbon-based life forms." "Recommendation?" The tree-like being consulted his data pad. "Class C civilization, suitable for manual labor, basic manufacturing, and auxiliary military support. Standard protection treaties should suffice." I had heard these same words about dozens of species. The pattern never changed. Young races always started with the same limited technology, the same basic social structures, the same fearful responses to superior power. 3 hours later, Commander arrived with 2 other humans. They came in a small shuttle that looked crude compared to Empire technology. Still seemed nervous, looking around the massive hangar bay with wide eyes. The other humans, both men, stayed quiet and let her do all the talking. I met them in the diplomatic chamber, a room designed to impress new species with its size and grandeur. Holographic displays showed star maps of Empire territory spanning half the galaxy. Representatives from major species stood at attention, their various forms creating an impressive display of the Empire's diversity. "Commander," I said formally, "welcome aboard the Eternal Dominion." And her companions looked up at the soaring ceiling and massive displays with expressions of clear amazement. One of the men actually stumbled slightly as he tried to take in everything at once. "It's incredible," said softly. "We never imagined anything like this existed." "Your species is young," I explained, settling into his command chair. "But the Empire welcomes all who seek to better themselves through cooperation. We offer protection, technology, and a place in galactic civilization. What would you need from us in return? Asked. Standard terms. Your military forces will be integrated into Empire defense fleets. 30% of your industrial output will support Empire needs. Your people will have access to Empire territories and benefits. Looked at her companions. They whispered together in their primitive language for several minutes, awaited patiently. This part always took time as new species struggled to understand how fortunate they were. We would need to discuss this with our government, said finally. This is a much bigger decision than we expected. Of course, you have one standard cycle to respond. Refusal is not advised. His face went pale, not advised. The galaxy can be dangerous for unprotected species, explained with practiced patience. Pirates, hostile aliens, natural disasters. The Empire provides security that isolated worlds cannot match. Surely you understand the wisdom of accepting protection. Yes, said quickly. Yes, we understand. We just need time to explain everything to our people. Very reasonable. We will await your response. After the humans left, reviewed the assessment data with his team. Everything matched the standard pattern. Limited technology, small population, obvious fear of superior forces. The humans would accept the treaty. They always did. Prepare integration protocols for Class C civilization, he ordered. Standard terms. They will likely want minor modifications to save face with their population, but nothing significant. Yes, sir, replied his diplomatic officer. Shall we prepare for resource surveys of their territory? Begin preliminary scans. Focus on their outer planets. Young species usually have untapped resources they do not even know about. A look at the star map showing the small yellow star where humans lived. Another tiny addition to the Empire's vast territory. Another species that would provide workers, soldiers, and resources to fuel continued expansion. The humans seemed more nervous than most new species, but that would fade quickly once they saw the benefits of Empire membership. They always adapted. Fear turned to gratitude within a few generations. He had no reason to suspect these particular primates would be any different from all the others. 3 months after the first meeting, Commander returned to the Eternal Dominion. This time she looked more confident, though she still seemed impressed by the massive ship's technology. Admiral received her in his private office, a smaller room than the grand diplomatic chamber. Commander, I trust your leaders have reached a wise decision, said, settling his 6 arms comfortably. Yes, Admiral, Earth accepts the Empire's protection treaty. We are honored to join such a great civilization. Handed him a data pad with the signed agreement. We do have one small request. A's large eyes studied the document. Everything looked standard. What request? We would like to contribute our best soldiers to help defend Empire territory. Our people want to prove we can be valuable allies. This surprised most new species tried to avoid military service as long as possible. That is unexpected. Most young races prefer to ease into their military obligations. Smiled slightly. Humans have always been fighters, Admiral. We want to show we can hold our own. Very well, send us your military personnel. They will be assigned appropriate duties. 6 weeks later, a human transport ship arrived at Empire Staging Base 7 on the galaxy's outer rim. Captain stepped off the ship with 200 human soldiers. The base commander, a reptilian officer named H, looked them over with professional interest. The humans were smaller than most Empire soldiers, but they moved with good discipline. Their equipment was basic Empire-issued gear, nothing special. Himself seemed competent but unremarkable, a middle-aged man with graying hair who spoke respectfully to his alien commanders. Captain, welcome to Staging Base 7, H said in his hissing voice. Your troops will be assigned to patrol duties in Sector 12. "Thank you, sir. My soldiers are ready for whatever duties you assign." Sector 12 was considered a safe assignment. The occasional pirate raid, some smugglers, minor disputes between colony worlds, perfect for testing new species without risking valuable resources. His company performed exactly as expected. They followed orders without question, took reasonable care of their equipment, and got along well with alien troops. Their first patrol mission went smoothly. They encountered a small pirate vessel trying to raid a cargo transport and drove it off with minimal damage to either side. "Adequate performance," H reported to his superiors. "Humans show good tactical sense and discipline. No major problems." Over the following months, human troops were deployed to several minor conflicts. They always performed competently but never dramatically. During a border dispute with an aggressive insect species called the company held their assigned position and inflicted reasonable casualties while taking light losses themselves. "They are reliable," reported Colonel after observing human performance during the conflict. "Not exceptional warriors, but they follow orders and do not panic under fire, better than many species we have integrated." The humans seemed content with their role. They never volunteered for dangerous missions or complained about being assigned support duties. Often requested permission to rotate his troops back to Earth for rest, which seemed reasonable for a young species still adjusting to galactic warfare. What the Empire did not know was that spent these rotation periods receiving detailed briefings from Earth's actual military command. During their stays on alien bases, human soldiers carefully observed Empire technology, tactics, and military doctrine. They asked innocent questions about weapons systems and ship designs, always seeming curious rather than suspicious. "The plasma cannons on your cruisers," a human sergeant asked a weapons officer during a quiet moment. "How do they achieve such stable energy containment? Our scientists would love to understand the principles." The massive bear-like creature was happy to explain. Most species found human curiosity charming. These new aliens seemed so eager to learn and improve themselves. Meanwhile, a new threat began emerging on the galaxy's far edge. Reports came in of entire colonies going silent. When Empire scouts investigated, they found worlds stripped of all life. The attackers left behind only empty buildings and strange organic residue. Emperor called an emergency council meeting in the Empire's capital. Representatives from major species gathered in the Great Hall, their various forms creating a rainbow of shapes and colors under the crystal lighting. "The Devourers have returned," announced the Emperor, his voice echoing through the chamber. A wave of nervous sound swept through the assembled aliens. The Devourers were an old enemy, a hive-mind species that consumed other life forms to grow stronger. They had been driven back beyond the galactic edge centuries ago, but intelligence suggested they had spent that time growing and preparing. "How many worlds have they taken?" asked the war leader, his massive frame tense with anticipation. 17 colonies in the past month. They move faster than before and seem to have new technologies. We must mobilize our full military strength. Admiral A spoke up. "What about the newer species, the humans and others from recent integrations?" "They can provide support troops," the Emperor decided. "The humans seem reliable enough for patrol duties while our elite forces handle the main fighting." A nodded. The humans had proven adequate for minor conflicts, but this was serious war. Better to keep them in safe roles where they could not get in the way. Captain received orders to deploy his company to the threatened sectors for patrol and support duties. He accepted the assignment with the same calm professionalism he had shown since arriving. "My troops are ready to serve wherever needed," he told H during their final briefing. "We understand this is beyond anything we have faced before." "Do not worry, Captain. You will be kept well back from the main battle zones. The Devourers are too dangerous for inexperienced troops." nodded respectfully. Of course, sir. We appreciate your consideration for our safety. As the human transport ships left for the front lines, H felt satisfied with the assignment. The humans would be useful for guarding supply lines and occupied worlds, while real warriors handled the fighting. It was exactly the sort of role a Class C species should play. He had no way of knowing that Captain's calm acceptance hid careful calculation, or that the inexperienced troops under his command had been studying Empire and Devourer tactical data for months, or that had already sent a coded message back to Earth requesting permission to reveal what humans could actually do if the situation became desperate enough. The message simply read, "May need to remove restrictions, awaiting authorization." The first major battle against the Devourers was a disaster. Admiral A stood in the command center of the Eternal Dominion, watching red warning lights flash across dozens of tactical displays. 3 Empire battle fleets had engaged the enemy at the nebula, expecting to drive them back just as they had done centuries before. Instead, 40% of the Empire's finest ships had been destroyed or captured in less than 6 hours. "Sir, Admiral N is requesting immediate reinforcements," reported his communications officer. "The 7th Fleet is down to 30% strength and falling back." A studied the battle reports with growing horror. The Devourers had indeed changed. Their ships moved faster than anything in Empire files. Their weapons cut through the strongest shields like they were made of paper. Worse, they seemed to learn and adapt during battle, growing stronger with each engagement. "What news from the Berserker Corps?" he asked. "Heavy casualties, sir. They lost 800 warriors in the first wave attack. The survivors are shaken." This was perhaps the most disturbing news of all. There were the Empire's elite shock troops, massive bear-like aliens who lived for battle and had never shown fear in 1,000 years of warfare. If they were shaken, the situation was worse than anyone had imagined. Emperor's voice crackled over the priority communication channel. "All fleet commanders report to the capital immediately. We must reassess our strategy." The emergency council meeting lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every major military species presented casualty reports that painted an increasingly grim picture. The battle forms, energy beings who could normally regenerate from almost any damage, were being absorbed faster than they could heal. The crystalline, whose bodies could withstand direct hits from plasma cannons, were being dissolved by some new devourer weapon. "They have evolved beyond our previous understanding," reported the chief science officer, a floating jellyfish-like creature whose species was known for their analytical abilities. "These are not the same devourers we fought centuries ago. They have incorporated technology and biological traits from every species they have consumed." Emperor looked older than his 800 years. How long before they reach core Empire worlds? At their current rate of advance, 6 months. Maybe less if they continue adapting this rapidly. The room fell silent except for the soft humming of translation devices. Every species present understood what this meant. The Empire had never faced an existential threat like this. "We need every available resource," the Emperor declared finally. "All reserves will be activated. All auxiliary forces will be brought to the front lines." Admiral A spoke up. "Sir, that includes the newer species, the humans and others from recent integrations." "I am aware. At this point, we cannot afford to be selective about our allies." 3 days later, Captain received new orders at his patrol base in Sector 12. Base Commander H delivered them personally, his reptilian features showing strain that had not been there weeks before. "Captain, your orders have changed. High Command is requesting all available forces for frontline deployment." Read the official documents carefully. "The Devourer front, sir, are you certain? My troops have no experience with this level of warfare." "I know," H admitted, But we have lost so many experienced units that we must use what we have. You will be assigned to defensive positions on occupied worlds, guard duty and evacuation support. Nodded slowly. Of course, sir, we will do our duty, though I should mention I may need to request additional support from Earth. Additional support. Our rotation schedule brings fresh troops every few months. Given the seriousness of the situation, I could request early rotation of some specialized units. H waved a clawed hand dismissively. Whatever you need, Captain. At this point, every soldier matters. After H left, activated a secure communication device hidden in his personal quarters. The device used quantum encryption technology that the Empire had never seen, disguised to look like a simple data pad. Command, this is. The Empire is desperate, requesting authorization for Phase 2 deployment. The response came from Earth within minutes. Authorization granted. Implement Omega-7 protocols. Full support authorized. Understood, beginning Phase 2. Spent the next hour sending coded messages to human units throughout Empire space. Most aliens assumed the messages were routine administrative communications between human forces. The codes themselves were hidden in seemingly innocent discussion about supply schedules and personnel rotations. What the Empire did not know was that humans had been embedding intelligence operatives within their civilian administration for months. These operatives had gained access to Empire communication networks, strategic databases, and military planning systems. They had done this not through hacking or violence, but simply by being incredibly good at their assigned jobs. Dr. Lisa Park, supposedly a human agricultural specialist helping improve food production on Empire worlds, had actually been mapping the entire Empire communication grid. Her research into crop yields had required access to shipping manifests, planetary databases, and transportation schedules. Within weeks, she knew more about Empire logistics than most high-ranking officials. Engineer Tom, assigned to routine maintenance on Empire facilities, had quietly documented the design specifications of every major military installation he visited. His requests to understand the systems better so I can maintain them properly had given him complete structural plans of key bases throughout the galaxy. These operatives received coded messages and began implementing their real missions. Communication relays that had been upgraded for better efficiency suddenly became monitoring stations. Computer systems that had been optimized by helpful human technicians began copying classified data. Transport schedules that had been streamlined by human administrators were now allowing rapid movement of personnel and equipment to strategic locations. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President stood in a war room that existed several miles underground. The room contained technology that would have amazed even Empire scientists, though it was deliberately designed to remain undetected by alien sensors. Status report, she requested. All Phase 1 objectives complete, reported General Harrison, a man whose quiet manner hid decades of experience in conflicts the Empire had never suspected. Our people are in position throughout Empire space. Intelligence gathering is proceeding perfectly. Resistance from Empire forces. None. They still consider us auxiliary support. Admiral actually thanked Captain for being so eager to help. President nodded, and our assessment of the Devourer threat. Significant but manageable. They have indeed evolved since their last encounter with the Empire, but their adaptations follow predictable patterns. Our xenobiology teams finished their analysis last week. Recommendations. We can handle the Devourers, but it will require revealing some of our actual capabilities. The question is how much to show the Empire. Considered this. Humanity had been observing galactic civilization for far longer than the Empire suspected. They had watched species rise and fall, had seen the patterns of war and peace that shaped the galaxy. The Empire was actually one of the more stable galactic governments they had encountered, which was why they had chosen to join rather than simply continue watching. Minimal reveal, she decided. Show enough to solve the crisis, but maintain the illusion that we are still learning and adapting. We do not want to frighten them into making poor decisions. Understood. I will brief Captain on the new parameters. As alarms continued to sound across Empire space and casualty reports painted an increasingly desperate picture, none of the alien commanders suspected that help was already on the way. They saw only a young species offering what little assistance they could provide. They had no idea they were about to witness what humans were actually capable of when the gloves came off. Admiral A was reviewing the latest disaster reports when his sensor officer announced something impossible. "Sir, we have human ships approaching the battle zone." "How many?" A asked, not looking up from casualty lists that grew longer by the hour. 3 more battle groups had been wiped out in the past day. The Empire was running out of elite troops. 47 vessels, sir, but what? Sir, these are not the ships we have seen before. A's 6 arms stopped moving. He looked up at his sensor officer, a crystalline being whose species was never wrong about technical readings. "Explain." "The energy signatures are completely different. These ships are much larger than previous human vessels, and they are using propulsion technology that does not match anything in our databases." On the main screen, the approaching human fleet looked nothing like the simple transport ships the Empire had seen for months. These vessels were sleek and angular, with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. They moved through space in perfect formation, their speed far exceeding anything humans had previously demonstrated. "Open a channel to the human fleet commander," A ordered. Captain's face appeared on the screen, but he looked different. The nervous, respectful officer was gone, replaced by someone who carried himself with quiet confidence. His uniform was different too, made from material that seemed to absorb light and fitted with devices A did not recognize. "Admiral A," said with a slight smile, "we received word that you needed additional support." "Captain, these ships, where did they come from? Our records show no human vessels of this class." "There are many things not in your records, Admiral. My government decided it was time to provide more substantial assistance." Before I could respond, alerts began flashing across his tactical display. A massive devourer force had been detected approaching the system, home to 12 billion civilians. 3 Empire fleets had tried to stop them and been destroyed. The aliens were moving toward their next meal with nothing standing in their way. "Admiral," continued, "request permission to engage the enemy force threatening." "Captain, that force destroyed our best battle fleets. You have fewer than 50 ships. I cannot order you to commit suicide." Smile widened, and for the first time, I noticed something predatory in the human's expression. "Admiral, with respect, you are not ordering anything. We are volunteers, remember." The human fleet changed course toward without waiting for official permission. I watched in fascination and growing alarm as the strange ships accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for matter to achieve. "Follow them," he ordered his helmsman, "maximum speed." The Eternal Dominion was one of the Empire's fastest ships, but it fell behind the human fleet within minutes. By the time I arrived the battle was already over. The space around the planet was filled with the twisted remains of devourer bioships. The aliens that had terrified the entire galaxy for months had been cut apart with surgical precision. Not a single human vessel showed damage. "Report," A demanded of his tactical officer. "Sir, sensor logs show the humans engaged the enemy for approximately 4 minutes. Devourer losses were total. Human losses were 0. 4 minutes? How is that possible?" "Unknown, sir. Human weapons appear to operate on principles we do not understand. Their energy signatures do not match any known technology. Opened a channel to ship. The human captain appeared on screen, still smiling that unsettling smile. "Captain, I demand an explanation. What just happened here defies everything we know about your species' capabilities." "We got better," replied simply. "That is not an explanation. Where did these ships come from? What weapons are you using? How did you destroy an enemy force that eliminated 3 of our best fleets?" Was quiet for a long moment, seeming to consider his words carefully. "Admiral, do you remember our first conversation, when I told you humans wanted to prove we could be valuable allies?" "Yes." "Well, we were being polite. Your empire seemed stable and peaceful. We thought it would be better to fit in quietly, learn about galactic civilization without causing alarm." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that the ships you first saw, the equipment we carried, the performance we showed in training exercises, all of that was us holding back. We did not want to frighten anyone." Felt a chill run through his body. Holding back by how much? "Significantly." Before I could respond, more alerts sounded. Another devourer force had appeared at the edge of the system, twice the size of the first one. The aliens had detected the destruction of their advanced fleet and sent reinforcements. "Captain, another enemy force is approaching. You should retreat while you can." "Why?" asked, sounding genuinely puzzled. "Because there are over 300 enemy ships in that fleet." "Admiral, we just destroyed 400 ships in 4 minutes. Do you think another 100 will make a difference?" The second battle lasted 6 minutes, but only because the human fleet took time to form a more complex attack pattern. When it was over, the space around looked like a ship graveyard. Twisted devourer biohulls drifted in all directions, leaking strange fluids that glowed in the starlight. "Impossible," whispered A's science officer. "No species in the galaxy possesses this level of technology." Captain's image appeared on screen again. This time he looked almost apologetic. "Admiral, I think my government owes you a fuller explanation. Would you be willing to meet with our leadership?" "Your leadership? You mean commander?" "No, Admiral, you have never met our actual leadership. Commander is, let me think of the right words, a junior diplomatic officer. She was chosen specifically because she seems harmless and non-threatening." A's 6 arms began trembling. "Who are you people?" "That is a longer conversation than we can have over an open channel, but I can tell you this much. Everything you think you know about humanity is wrong." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human forces that had seemed adequate but unremarkable were suddenly demonstrating capabilities that rewrote the rules of warfare. Ships that had looked crude compared to Empire technology were revealing themselves to be marvels of engineering beyond anything aliens had imagined. On dozens of worlds, human civilians who had been working in administrative and support roles began displaying knowledge and abilities that shocked their alien colleagues. Dr. Lisa Park, the supposed agricultural specialist, casually mentioned that she had identified 17 different ways to improve Empire food production using techniques her people had developed recently. When pressed for details, her suggestions revealed understanding of biochemistry that was centuries ahead of Empire science. Engineer Tom began offering modifications to Empire facilities that increased their efficiency by factors that should have been theoretically impossible. When alien engineers asked how he had discovered these improvements, he smiled and said his people had done some thinking about the problem. Emperor received reports from across the Empire describing the same pattern. Humans were revealing capabilities they had somehow hidden for months. Not just military technology, but advances in science, engineering, agriculture, medicine, and dozens of other fields. The Emperor sat in his private chambers, reading report after report of human improvements to Empire systems. Each report painted the same picture. These aliens possessed technology and knowledge far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. His personal communicator chimed. Admiral A was requesting an emergency meeting. Your Majesty, A said when the connection opened. The human captain has requested a meeting with our leadership. He claims we have never met their actual government representatives. What do you mean? Sir, I believe we have been deceived from the beginning. The humans are not what they appear to be. The Emperor leaned back in his throne, feeling very old and very foolish. Send the invitation, Admiral. I think it is time we learned who we have really been dealing with. The ship that arrived at the Empire capital was impossible. Emperor stood in the observatory of his palace, watching something that broke every law of physics he understood. The human vessel was the size of a small moon, yet it had appeared without warning in the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. Palace sensors had detected nothing until the ship chose to make itself visible. How did it get past our defenses? He asked Admiral A. It did not get past them, Your Majesty. Our sensors show it has been there for 3 hours, but it was completely invisible until now. Cloaking technology. Beyond anything we have ever seen, our best scientists cannot even theorize how it works. The ship itself looked like a work of art. Its surface was perfectly smooth, with no visible weapons or engines, yet it held position with absolute precision. Gentle light seemed to flow across its hull in patterns that were beautiful and somehow hypnotic. Incoming transmission, reported the communications officer. A woman appeared on the main screen. She had graying hair and kind eyes, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to absolute authority. Her clothing was simple, but made from material that seemed to shift color subtly as she moved. Your Majesty, I am President of the Earth Federation. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Emperor studied her carefully. Unlike Commander, this woman showed no nervousness or uncertainty. She spoke as an equal, which should have been impossible for a representative of a Class C civilization. President, I confess we are somewhat confused about recent events. Your people seem to possess capabilities we were not aware of. We did not lie to you, said gently. We simply did not mention everything. May I come aboard your station? This conversation would be better held in person. An hour later, President walked through the palace halls accompanied by 2 humans who moved with fluid grace that suggested enhanced physical capabilities. The President herself seemed unremarkable except for her complete lack of intimidation by the massive alien architecture around her. In the Great Council chamber, representatives from every major empire species had gathered. War leaders sat next to energy forms. Crystalline beings shared space with floating jellyfish creatures. The diversity that had always been the Empire's strength now felt somehow inadequate. President took her place at the center of the chamber and waited quietly for the Emperor to speak. President, the Emperor began formally, we would appreciate an explanation of recent events. Your military forces have demonstrated capabilities far beyond what we were led to expect from your species. What exactly would you like to know? Everything. Who are you really? Where did these ships come from? How long have you possessed this technology? Considered the questions carefully. Your Majesty, we have been spacefaring for approximately 12,000 years. The chamber erupted in sounds of shock and disbelief. 12,000 years was older than most of the species present. It was older than the Empire itself. The Emperor raised a hand for silence. That is impossible. Our surveys showed you had only achieved faster-than-light travel in the past century. Your surveys showed what we wanted them to show, replied calmly. We have been observing galactic civilization for. Your empire impressed us with its stability and inclusiveness, so we decided to join rather than simply continue watching. You have been watching us. We have been watching everyone. The galaxy is full of young races developing space travel and making contact with their neighbors. Most of the time, we simply observe and occasionally provide gentle guidance when civilizations seem to be heading toward destructive paths. Admiral A spoke up. The ships, the weapons, the technology we witnessed. How advanced are you really? That is difficult to answer in terms you would understand. Our current technology would seem like magic to species who are still learning to fold spacetime for faster-than-light travel. One of the war leaders, a massive creature covered in scars from countless battles, growled a question. If you are so advanced, why hide among us? Why pretend to be weak? Turn to face the warrior directly. Because the last time we revealed our full capabilities to a galactic civilization, they declared war on us out of fear. What happened? The Emperor asked quietly. They gathered every species in their territory and launched a coordinated attack on human space. The war lasted 3 days. You defeated them in 3 days. We convinced them to surrender in 3 days. The actual fighting lasted about 6 hours. After that, they spent the rest of the time trying to negotiate peace terms. The chamber fell silent. Every species present was trying to imagine technology so advanced that a galactic war could be ended in 6 hours. What happened to that civilization? Asked one of the floating jellyfish beings. They still exist. We helped them rebuild and develop into a peaceful federation. They are doing quite well now, though they prefer to keep to themselves. Emperor leaned forward in his throne. President, what exactly do you want from us? Nothing different than what we wanted before. We would like to participate in galactic civilization. We enjoy meeting new species and learning about different cultures. Your empire provides a stable framework for that interaction. But you could conquer us easily. Yes. We could also lift your entire planet into a higher orbit if you wanted better weather. Having the ability to do something does not mean we want to do it. Then why reveal yourselves now? Because the Devourer crisis threatens something we value, the diversity and stability of this galactic community. We could not allow that to be destroyed when we had the ability to prevent it. One of the energy forms pulsed with patterns that indicated deep thought. The Devourers, are they truly defeated? Completely. We did not simply destroy their fleets. We traced them back to their origin point and had a conversation with their central hive mind. They have agreed to relocate to a different galaxy where they can develop without threatening other life forms. You talk to the Devourers. They are quite reasonable when approached properly. They were attacking because they were hungry and saw this galaxy as an available food source. We helped them understand that there are many uninhabited galaxies where they can grow without harming established civilizations. Admiral A asked the question that was troubling everyone present. President, what happens now? How does the Empire continue to function knowing that one of our member species could control the entire galaxy if they chose? Smiled warmly. Admiral, nothing changes. We will continue to participate as we have been, perhaps with slightly less pretense about our capabilities. We still want to learn from you, trade with you, and enjoy the rich diversity of your cultures. You truly have no interest in ruling us. Ruling is exhausting and boring. We much prefer being helpful neighbors. The Emperor considered this. What about your people who have been living among us, the supposed administrators and specialists who revealed such advanced knowledge? They will continue their work, if you will have them. Dr. Park genuinely enjoys agricultural research, even if her definition of recent developments covers a few thousand years. Engineer likes fixing things and making them work better. They were not spying on you so much as they were enjoying their jobs. They were gathering intelligence. They were preparing for the possibility that we might need to act quickly in a crisis, which proved to be correct when the Devourers arrived. The Emperor was quiet for several minutes, processing everything he had learned. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species were having the same struggle to understand their new reality. Finally, he spoke. President, I must ask, are there other species like you, other civilizations that are far more advanced than they appear? A few. Most prefer complete isolation, but there are some that take a more active interest in galactic affairs. You have probably interacted with several without knowing it. How do we know who to trust? Your Majesty, you have been trusting them all along. The fact that your empire has remained stable and peaceful for so long is not entirely accidental. Several very old species take an active interest in preventing galactic wars and encouraging cooperation between young races. The revelation hung in the air like a physical weight. The empire they had built, the civilization they were so proud of, had been gently guided by species so advanced they could barely comprehend the gap. "Are we children to you?" asked one of the leaders. Considered the question seriously. "No. You are younger civilizations learning to work together across species barriers. That is actually quite remarkable and difficult to achieve. Most species never manage it successfully. But you watch us and guide us like children. We watch you and occasionally prevent you from making catastrophic mistakes, like parents might prevent children from playing with dangerous tools. But your achievements, your art, your philosophy, your unique approaches to life and culture, those are entirely your own." Emperor stood up slowly. "President, on behalf of the Empire, I welcome you as our senior partners, though I suspect you have been partners all along." "Thank you, Your Majesty. We look forward to many more years of cooperation." As the meeting ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, Admiral approached the President. "Ma'am, one final question. When you first arrived and seemed so nervous and uncertain, was any of that real?" President smiled. "Commander was genuinely nervous. She is a military psychologist, and her assignment was to study your reactions while projecting exactly the image we wanted you to see. The fact that she was nervous about successfully completing her mission made her performance completely authentic." Shook his head. "We never suspected anything." "That was the point, Admiral. We have learned that it is much better for everyone if civilizations discover the truth gradually, when they are ready to handle it." As the President's shuttle departed for her impossible ship, Emperor stood in his observatory watching it leave. The galaxy suddenly seemed much larger and more mysterious than it had that morning. But somehow it also felt safer.